Hello and welcome to another episode of Messy Magic, the very first episode of 2023. Happy New Year. I'm your host, D Guy, and I'm so excited for you to join me today. I want to talk about New Year, I was going to say resolutions, but they're not. I don't really want to talk about resolutions. I want to talk about the vision that you have for the year, any goals that you might have, and the whole idea of setting visions and goals and words of the year. And I want to share with you an exercise that I did earlier this year, which I've found really beautiful and creative and useful, that you might like to use in your year. And so I hope it's helpful. Now, before I talk about that, I do want to mention that I not only have a word for the year, but I've also got some other things that I want to achieve this year. As in, I'm not just setting a word of the year. I do have habits and goals that I want to put in place for the year, but this episode is not about that. So I can do a separate episode on that, but this is just about word of the year. And I also want to say that if you have already set yourself some intentions for this year, or if you have not, either is okay. I'm recording this on Friday the 13th of January, and if you're listening to this, you may be feeling like, the year's already started, so what's the point? And I'm definitely in the camp of believing that you can set intentions and goals and desires and visions at any time that you want to. Every day there's a new sunrise and is a new opportunity to begin again. Every breath we take is a new breath and is another opportunity to begin again. Having said that, I do believe there's a certain potency around New Year's, and New Year's Eve is one of my favourite times of the year. At least it has been over the years. This year, I think, is one of the first years I was in bed before midnight. There was no way I was going to make it to midnight this year. I think the rest of my household, my husband and my son, were in bed by about 8 p.m. So there's that. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of New Year's, mainly for just the magic that I think is in the air at that time of the year. It's like in between Christmas and everything going back into regular routine for most of us. And I just think it's a space that we can explore for setting ourselves up with new energy for the new year. But it is the 13th of January, and I am talking about setting up a word for yourself for the coming year. So clearly, I believe that it's not too late. And I think it's also worth mentioning that if you have set yourself goals or intentions or a vision for this year, you might be feeling like you're already slipping off the rails, or maybe you're doing well, but you could see yourself slipping off the rails, or maybe it's not resonating as strongly with you as it was a couple of weeks ago. And so I think today's episode is helpful for either type of person, whether you've done your intentions or not for the year. Having talked about all of that and mentioning that I also have some goals and habits, not just a word of the year for this year, I will just quickly mention that one of the methods that I use most years is a workbook from Leonie Dawson. So if you don't know Leonie, she is an Aussie entrepreneur. She has all different types of online courses and programs, and she does this workbook, one for business, one for life. She's been doing it for, years and years. And when I've done it in the past, I have actually found it to be really powerful. Even if I write down something once in the book, I have found that it's had power. Many of the things that I've written have come to pass, and some of them very quickly, which I'm thinking of one particular thing at the moment, which I won't go into because that's not what this episode is about. But I will put a link in the podcast notes to the workbook. She's also doing this amazing thing this year where she's included all of her programs inside of her academy, and it's a once-off payment for the year for $99 US, I think, and you get everything, including the workbooks. And she's got some programs in there that are worth hundreds of dollars. So I'm a member, fully recommend it. I'm also an affiliate if you happen to use my link. But again, it's like I've been doing this for years and I really believe in it. So enough said about that. Again, that's not what this episode is about. What it is about is setting your word of the year. And I'm also going to credit this process to Mary Lofgren, who is a podcaster and a coach, a feminine embodiment coach that I've been following for a long time. And I listened to a podcast episode of hers, and this process is mostly derived from that episode. And I think she actually credits someone else with the process. So it's one of those things, that just kind of gets passed from person to person. So hopefully you get some value from it. And it brings an extra slice of magic into your 2023. So last year I had a word of the year, but it wasn't created using this process. It was more of an organic kind of selection. I had a few things that I was playing with, words that I was playing with, and I ended up landing on one that just felt, or it sounded like what I wanted to bring more into my life. My word last year was playful. And it was an amazing word to remember. And I certainly struggled with it, which I think is not a bad thing, to kind of, whenever I remembered or thought about my word of the year and how I could bring more playfulness into my life, it really challenged me to think differently to the way that my brain is used to thinking. So it was good. But this process is going to take you through more of an embodied way to choose a word that feels deeply resonant with you and your body. And so if you're going to do this exercise, the first thing you do is grab a journal or a notebook and you think about last year and what happened. And this is part of my process every year anyway. It doesn't matter whether I'm doing Leonie Dawson's books or my own process. I always take time to think about what happened last year and what I achieved and what could have been better and what I'm choosing to bring into the new year and what I'm choosing to leave behind. And I think that it's important to do that because it gives you a clean slate and it gives you like fresh energy to use. And again, you can do this at any time. It could be for the last calendar year or it could be for whatever period of time you want to review. And so that's important to do, to kind of realize where you've come from and where you're at. The next step is to close your eyes and imagine yourself next New Year's Eve. Imagine where you want to be, who you want to be. You might imagine where you are, who you're with, what you're talking about, what you're wearing, what kind of energy you're holding, what you're eating. As much detail as you can think of is beautiful. And once you've got that vision, then open your eyes and write it down. And bring as much descriptive kind of essence as you'd like to this process. Or if you don't want to be descriptive and you're kind of just noting what you noticed about who you want to be this time next year or New Year's Eve, that's fine too. And then once you feel like you've fleshed all of that out, and I've been through this process, as I said, and I found it really interesting to think about who I want to be in 12 months' time. Because whenever I think about myself in the future, I have this tendency to think further into the future, to the point where I think sometimes it feels a little bit so far off that like there's a massive gap between where I am now and where I plan to be. And I think using 12 months is a really good way of bringing it more into your present day life, because there's going to be things that you need to do between now and then over the next 12 months to get to that place. So I feel like that's really useful. And then what you do is you read back through what you've written and you put a circle around any words that feel particularly charged or that, make your tummy dance a little bit when you read them. Any words that you feel excited about, or any words that just like stand out to you as important in this vision. And what you'll end up with is a handful of words that you've circled that are important for you in this coming year. And the final step is to look over the words that you've circled and pick the one that scares you the most. The one that, again, brings butterflies to your tummy. The one that feels a little bit charged or sparkly or glittery, or just the one that feels like it might be slightly out of your comfort zone, but still within reach. And so now you've got your word of the year. I broke this rule a little bit with mine, and mine's more of a phrase. Mine's 2 words. And I'm going to let you in on my secret, or a little secret, because it's like I'm not really telling many people my word of the year. But as my friend on this podcast, I'm going to tell you what my word of the year is. And it still kind of gives me the butterflies when I think about it or say it. Mine is effortless power. And to me, that feels really charged, and it feels like it's not really me in a way, but it could be. And what you do once you've selected your word or your phrase of the year, that becomes, I guess, your theme. And it's kind of what you're working towards, what you'd like to be embodying by the end of the year. And so on a day-to-day basis, if you're facing a challenge, or you become aware of a desire, or you're in a situation, you might be faced with, or you might have the realization that I could bring more, insert word of the year here, to this. So how could I bring more, whatever your word is? Let's say mine is effortless power. How could I embody effortless power? How could I bring more effortless power to this situation? And so then you've got a word which is charged for you. It's a word for the whole year, and it's a word that is bringing you closer to the person that you want to be by the end of the year. And you've also got something to lean back on when you feel like a situation that you're in, or a way that you're behaving, or the way that you're speaking or not speaking could be more aligned with who you want to be. And it's that word. And it's just that question of asking yourself, how could I bring more of this into my life right now, or into my energy right now? And I think it's really, really powerful and really valuable. Now, that's the end of the exercise. And there's one other thing that I want to share with you, which I'm super excited about. So one of the things I did last year, I had a pretty massive year last year, to be honest. Like I ticked off quite a few big things for myself, which, like added up to a really brilliant year in a number of ways. It was very challenging in lots of ways as well. But one of the things I did last year, which has made a huge difference to my life and continues to, because I'm still learning, but I'm getting to be more familiar with the messages that I receive from my body and tapping into my inner wisdom as an innately feminine being. Feminine being, not meaning, like the girly girl kind of flowery feminine that many people might think of when I say the word feminine, but the feminine energy of creativity and quiet power and inspiration and receptivity, and there's so much to it. But what I wanted to say is that I am becoming much more aware of my inner voice and learning to trust it, because I feel like I used to have a really strong intuition, but I don't know, somewhere along the line I stopped listening to my inner voice and it's been a journey, and I'm really, really loving learning tools and techniques to come back in touch with it and to trust myself again, and to really know deeply that I've got my own back no matter what happens. And where I'm learning that is in my studies to become a feminine embodiment coach through the School of Embodied Arts. And I'm still a coach in training, so I have to emphasize that. But I've learned so many tools and techniques to use with myself and with the clients that I've been working with. And I've had so many profound experiences over the past 6 or so months. I can't even tell you. I will do a separate episode on my experience, and in particular a recent session that I received, which was so reassuring and regrounding. And it was amazing, but I'm not going to talk about that today. What I wanted to mention was just to let you in on that little piece of news that this is something I'm going to be focusing more on. I'm going to be graduating officially this year, hopefully all going well in the next few months. And I'm excited today just to quietly announce that in celebration of these new skills that I'm learning and this new offering that I'm planning on putting out into the world and having it be of service, that I'm offering discovery sessions with anyone who might be interested in finding out more. And I'm going to be offering 2 people the opportunity for 2 free 90-minute sessions each. And so this is something I'm so excited about, because for me it has had such amazing value, and I could not be more excited to be offering it up into the world as a service and a support. Now, there's lots of different things that it can be used for, and that these tools and techniques can be used for, and I'm really excited about that. But in line with today's theme, these sessions will focus around your vision for 2023 and what you'd like to bring into the world this year. So if you're thinking about creating your vision for 2023, or you want to revisit what you've already thought about, or you just want to wipe the slate clean and start over again, and if you want it to come from a place of really deep truth and just really your wisdom, really your innate internal wisdom that we often ignore or forget about, and your deep desires, then I'd love to support you with this. I truly believe deeply in the power of this coaching, and this is going to be blossoming into much bigger offerings over the course of this year. But in the meantime, I'm just starting to offer it up to the world, and this is the very first time that I'm able to talk about it on the podcast and offer discovery sessions. And again, it's 2 people will be able to get 2 90-minute sessions with me for free. And so if you're interested, you can go to messymagic.co/coaching, and that will take you through to my calendar where you can book a slot for the discovery session. And this discovery session is basically just a conversation that we have where I can talk to you more about what's involved and what to expect, and you can also tell me about what you're looking for and what you desire or what your challenges are at the moment, and I can do a little demo with you, give you a bit of a flavour. There's no obligation whatsoever. It's really a chance for us to chat about it and see if it's something that you might be interested in or not. No pressure one way or another, because it's important for the people who go through this process to be fully open to it and willing to do the work, really, because on one hand it is work, but on the other hand it also, if you allow it to be, it also comes easily and naturally from deep within your soul. So I'm super excited to be announcing that today. If you know of anyone who you think might be interested and you're not, then please feel free to let them know as well, or share this episode with them. And the last thing I'll mention is that you've got until January 31st to book the session to qualify for those free spots. So all you have to do is book the discovery session, book it by the 31st, and then you qualify for one of those 2 free spots that I've got. So if you can't remember the link or whatever, I'll put it in the show notes along with the other link that I mentioned earlier, as well as a link to the podcast episode with Mary Lofgren with this exercise. And yeah, I hope that this episode has been valuable. I know it's a bit longer than my usual episodes, but I also haven't done one for a few weeks. So I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope you had a really lovely new year, and I'll be bringing you some more episodes really soon. And in the meantime, I hope you have a magical day.